Git and GitHub are two terms that are often used together, but they're not the same thing. Understanding the difference between them is very important if you want to grow in programming, software development, data science, or AI. Let's start from the beginning in very simple words. Git is a tool, a piece of software that helps you track changes in your code. It works like a smart history system that remembers everything you do in your project. For example, if you write some code today and tomorrow you change it, Git keeps a record of both versions. If something breaks or you make a mistake, you can easily go back to the older version. This is very powerful because in real projects, things go wrong quite often. Without a system like Git, you may lose hours or even days of work. Now think about working on a big project with many files, maybe hundreds or thousands, and making changes every day. Without tracking, it becomes messy and confusing. Git solves this problem by organizing all changes in a structured way. It saves snapshots of your project, not just simple files. It also allows you to compare changes, see what was added, what was removed, and who made those changes. Another important concept in Git is a repository, usually called a repo. This is simply a folder where your project lives, and Git tracks everything inside it. Once you turn a folder into a Git repository, Git starts watching it. Every change can be recorded using a command called commit. A commit is like saving your progress with a message. For example, you can write something like fixed login bug or added new feature. This makes it easier to understand your history later. Now let's talk about branches, which is one of the most powerful features of Git. A branch is like a separate line of development. Imagine you're working on a project but want to try a new idea without breaking the main code. You can create a branch, work on it, and if everything goes well, you merge it back. If it fails, you can delete it without affecting your main project. This gives you the freedom to experiment without fear. This is one of the reasons why Git is loved by developers. Another important idea is collaboration. Git allows multiple people to work on the same project. Each person can make changes, and Git helps combine all those changes in a smart way. Sometimes there are conflicts, like when two people change the same line of code, but Git shows you the conflict and lets you fix it. So instead of chaos, you have control. Up to this point, Git is just a local tool. It works on your computer. But what if you want to share your project with others, save it online, or work with a team from different places? This is where GitHub comes in. GitHub is a platform, a website that hosts your Git repositories online. It acts like cloud storage for your code, but it is much more powerful than simple storage. With GitHub, you can upload your project, share it with others, allow people to contribute, and even showcase your work to the world. In simple words, Git is the tool, and GitHub is the place where you use that tool with others. Many beginners confuse them, but now you can clearly see the difference. Git tracks your work, and GitHub shares your work. Together, they create a complete system that is used by almost every professional developer in the world. Understanding these basics is the first step. Now that you understand what Git and GitHub are, the next important question is why they are necessary. And the honest answer is simple. Modern software development without Git is almost impossible. Every serious project, whether small or large, needs a system to manage changes, avoid confusion, and keep work organized. Imagine you're building a project over several weeks or months. You keep changing files, fixing bugs, adding features, and sometimes removing things that do not work. Without Git, you might start saving files like project_final, project_final_v2, project_final_latest, and it quickly becomes messy. You lose track of which version is correct. And if something breaks, you have no clean way to go back. Git removes this chaos completely. It gives you a clear timeline of your work. You can go back to any point in your project and restore it exactly as it was. This is not just useful, it is essential. Now, think about teamwork. In real jobs, you rarely work alone. You work with other developers, designers, and engineers. Everyone is changing the same project at the same time. Without a system, this would create confusion and conflicts every day. Git allows each person to work on their own part without disturbing others. Later, all changes can be combined in a controlled way. This is how companies build large systems like apps, websites, and AI tools without everything breaking apart. Another reason Git is necessary is safety. Your code is valuable. Losing it can mean losing days, weeks, or even months of effort. Git, especially when used with GitHub, acts like a backup system. Your code is stored safely online. Even if your computer crashes or you lose your files, your project is still available. This gives peace of mind and allows you to focus on building instead of worrying about losing your work. Git also improves your thinking as a developer. It encourages you to work in small steps. Each commit is like a checkpoint where you save meaningful progress. Over time, this builds a habit of writing cleaner and more organized code. You start thinking before making changes because you know your work is being tracked. This discipline is highly valued in the tech industry. Now let's talk about GitHub's role and necessity. GitHub is not just storage, it is a collaboration platform. It provides features like pull requests, where you can propose changes and others can review them before adding them to the main project. This review process improves code quality and helps teams learn from each other. It also includes issue tracking, where teams can report bugs, suggest features, and manage tasks. This makes project management much easier. Another powerful aspect of GitHub is visibility. When you upload your projects, they become part of your public profile. Anyone can see your work, your coding style, and your activity. This is very important for beginners because it acts like a portfolio. Instead of just saying you know programming, you can show real projects. Employers often check GitHub profiles before hiring. A strong profile can create opportunities even without a formal degree. Git and GitHub are also necessary because they're industry standards. Almost every company uses them or similar tools. If you apply for a job and you do not know Git, it immediately puts you at a disadvantage. It is like trying to be a writer without knowing how to use a keyboard. Even in AI and data science, version control is important for managing experiments, datasets, and models. So this is not just for web developers, it is for anyone in tech. In short, Git helps you manage your work, and GitHub helps you share and collaborate on that work. Together, they bring structure, safety, and professionalism to your projects. Without them, development becomes risky, unorganized, and difficult to scale. That is why learning Git and GitHub is not just useful, it is necessary if you want to move forward seriously in any technical career. Now let's go deeper into how Git and GitHub are used in real life, because understanding their practical use will make everything much clearer. When a developer starts a new project, the first step is usually to create a Git repository. This can be done on their local computer. Once the repository is created, every file in the project becomes trackable. The developer writes code, tests it, and when a meaningful change is made, they create a commit. Each commit has a message that explains what was done. Over time, these commits form a clean history of the project. This history is not just for record keeping. It is used daily to debug problems, review progress, and understand how the project evolved. Now, imagine this project is not just for one person, but for a team. This is where GitHub becomes very important. The developer pushes the local repository to GitHub, which means uploading it to the online platform. Once it is on GitHub, other team members can access it. They can download a copy, which is called cloning the repository, and start working on their own parts. Instead of everyone working directly on the same code, they create branches. Each branch is used for a specific task, like adding a new feature, fixing a bug, or improving performance. This keeps the main branch stable and clean. When a developer finishes their work on a branch, they create a pull request on GitHub. A pull request is basically a request to merge their changes into the main project. Other team members can review the code, suggest improvements, and check for mistakes. This process is called code review, and it is a key part of professional development. It improves code quality and helps developers learn from each other. Once everything looks good, the changes are merged into the main branch. Now the project is updated and everyone gets the latest version. Another real-life use of GitHub is managing tasks. Teams use issues to track bugs, plan features, and organize work. For example, if a user finds a problem in an app, it can be reported as an issue. Developers can then assign it, discuss it, and fix it in a structured way. This keeps the workflow organized and transparent. GitHub also supports automation through tools like GitHub Actions. These allow developers to automatically test their code whenever changes are made. For example, if someone pushes new code, tests can run automatically to check if everything is working correctly. This reduces errors and saves time. In larger companies, this kind of automation is very common and very important. Another practical use is open source contribution. GitHub hosts millions of open source projects that anyone can view and contribute to. Beginners can explore real-world code, learn how experienced developers write programs, and even contribute small improvements. This is one of the fastest ways to learn and grow. It also builds your confidence because you are working on real projects used by people around the world. Git and GitHub are also used in fields beyond traditional software development. In data science, they help track experiments, code, and results. In AI, they're used to manage models, datasets, and research work. Even writers and designers use version control to manage their work. So their use is not limited to coding only. In daily workflow, developers use simple commands again and again, like clone to copy a project, commit to save changes, push to upload changes, and pull to get updates from others. These actions become a normal part of their routine. At first, it may feel confusing, but with practice, it becomes natural. Just like learning to drive, once you get used to it, you do not think about each step. In summary, Git and GitHub are used at every stage of development, from starting a project to managing teamwork, reviewing code, fixing bugs, and even deploying applications. They provide structure and clarity in a process that would otherwise be chaotic. Understanding their real-life use shows why they are not just tools, but essential parts of modern development workflows. Now let's talk about how Git and GitHub can play a vital role in your career, because this is where things become very practical and important for your future. Knowing Git is not just a technical skill. It is a signal to employers that you understand how real development works. Many beginners focus only on learning programming languages like Python or JavaScript, but they ignore tools like Git. This creates a gap. Companies are not just looking for people who can write code, they are looking for people who can work in a team, manage code properly, and follow professional workflows. Git is a basic requirement for that. If you go for an interview and you do not know Git, it immediately shows that you are not ready for real-world development. On the other hand, if you're comfortable with Git, you already stand ahead of many beginners. Now let's talk about GitHub and your public profile. Your GitHub account works like a portfolio. Instead of just telling someone that you know coding, you can show your actual work. You can upload projects, small or large, and people can see your progress over time. They can see your commit history, your coding style, and how active you are. This creates trust. For example, if two candidates apply for the same job, one has only a resume and the other has a strong GitHub profile with real projects, most employers will prefer the second one. It gives proof of skill, not just words. Another important role GitHub plays is in learning and growth. When you build projects and push them to GitHub, you create a habit of finishing what you start. Many people learn concepts but never build complete projects. GitHub encourages you to organize your work and present it properly. Over time, this builds confidence. You start seeing yourself as a developer, not just a learner. It also helps you track your improvement. You can look back at your old code and clearly see how much you have grown. GitHub also opens doors to opportunities. Many recruiters and companies search for developers directly on GitHub. If your profile is active and shows good work, you might get noticed without even applying. This happens more often than people think, especially in open source communities. Contributing to open source projects is another powerful way GitHub helps your career. When you contribute, you are working with real developers on real problems. You learn how large projects are structured, how teams communicate, and how professional code is written. This experience is very valuable and often more practical than just doing courses. Even small contributions matter because they show that you can collaborate and follow guidelines. Another career benefit is networking. GitHub allows you to connect with other developers, follow their work, and even interact through issues and discussions. Over time, you become part of a community. This can lead to collaborations, mentorship, and even job opportunities. In fields like AI and data science, GitHub is equally important. You can share notebooks, models, and experiments. Many researchers publish their work on GitHub, and being active there helps you stay updated and visible. It also shows that you understand how to manage complex projects, which is a key skill in these fields. Finally, Git and GitHub teach discipline and professionalism. They make you think in a structured way, document your work, and communicate clearly through commit messages and pull requests. These habits are not just technical. They are professional skills that are useful in any job. In simple words, Git helps you work better, and GitHub helps you show your work to the world. Together, they can strongly shape your career path. They can help you learn faster, stand out from others, and open doors that would otherwise remain closed. That is why they are not just tools, but powerful career-building platforms. Now let's focus on how you can actually start learning Git and GitHub in a simple and practical way, because knowing their importance is one thing, but using them daily is what really matters. At the beginning, Git may feel confusing, especially if you have never used a command line before, but the truth is you only need a few basic commands to get started. First, you install Git on your computer. Then you create a project folder and turn it into a repository using a simple command. After that, your basic workflow begins. You write some code or create files. Then you add those changes, and finally you commit them with a message. These 3 steps, add, commit, and repeat, form the foundation of Git usage. You do not need to learn everything at once. Start small and build your understanding step by step. Once you're comfortable working locally, the next step is connecting your project to GitHub. You create an account on GitHub, create a new repository, and link it with your local project. Then you push your code online. From that point, your work is not only saved on your computer, but also on GitHub. This is a big step because now you have an online presence. Even if your project is simple, it is still valuable as a learning record. As you continue, you should practice using branches. Instead of making all changes directly in the main branch, create a new branch for each feature or experiment. This will help you understand how real development works. Later, you can merge your branch into the main branch. At first, merging may feel tricky, especially if there are conflicts, but this is part of the learning process. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. Another important step is learning how to read GitHub projects. Do not just upload your own code, also explore other repositories. Look at how they are structured, read their documentation, and try to understand their commits. This will improve your thinking and expose you to better coding practices. You do not need to understand everything. Just start observing and learning slowly. You should also start creating small projects regularly. For example, a simple calculator, a to-do list, a basic website, or a small Python script. Push each project to GitHub. Write clear commit messages and a short description for each project. Over time, these small projects will turn into a strong portfolio. Consistency is more important than complexity. A few simple, well-documented projects are better than one large, unfinished project. Another useful habit is writing a README file for your projects. This is a simple file where you explain what your project does, how to use it, and what technologies you used. Many beginners ignore this, but it is very important. It shows that you can explain your work clearly, which is a valuable skill. As you improve, you can start contributing to open-source projects. Begin with small contributions, like fixing typos, improving documentation, or solving small issues. This helps you understand how collaboration works in real projects. Do not wait until you feel perfect, because that moment never comes. Start early and learn by doing. Also, try to use Git in your daily learning. Even if you are just practicing coding problems or following a tutorial, save your work using Git. This will build a habit, and soon it will feel natural. You will not even think about it, just like saving a file. Over time, you can explore more advanced features like rebusing, resolving complex conflicts, and using GitHub Actions, but these are not necessary at the beginning. Focus on the basics and use them regularly. In simple words, the best way to learn Git and GitHub is by using them every day on real projects, even very small ones. Do not wait for a perfect project or perfect knowledge. Start now. Make mistakes, fix them, and keep going. That is how you build real skill and confidence. To bring everything together, Git and GitHub are not just tools you learn once and forget. They become part of your daily workflow and your identity as a developer. At the start, they may feel like an extra burden, something technical and confusing, but over time, they actually make your work easier, cleaner, and more professional. The real value of Git is control. You're no longer afraid of breaking your code because you know you can always go back. This freedom changes how you work. You start experimenting more, trying new ideas, and improving faster. Instead of being stuck, you move forward with confidence. GitHub, on the other hand, gives you visibility. It takes your work out of your computer and puts it in front of the world. This shift is powerful because now your learning is not private anymore. It becomes something you can share, improve, and build upon with others. When you stay consistent with Git and GitHub, something important happens over time. You build a track record. Every commit, every project, every contribution adds to your journey. Months later, you can look back and see real proof of your progress. This is something a simple certificate or course cannot fully show. It tells a story of effort, learning, and growth. For students and beginners, this can completely change how they are seen in the job market. Instead of being just another learner, you become someone who builds and shares real work. Another important point is long-term growth. Technology keeps changing, new languages, new frameworks, new tools, but Git remains constant. It is a foundational skill. Once you understand it well, you can apply it in any area: web development, mobile apps, AI, data science, or even research. It becomes a stable part of your skill set that supports everything else you learn. This makes your career more flexible and future-proof. There's also a mindset shift that comes with using Git and GitHub. You start thinking in terms of versions, improvements, and collaboration. You understand that good work is not done in one step, but in many small steps. You learn to document your changes, communicate clearly, and respect structured workflows. These are qualities that companies value highly, sometimes even more than raw coding skill. In team environments, these habits make you reliable and easy to work with. It is also important to be realistic. Just knowing Git and GitHub alone will not guarantee a job. They are not magic tools. They work best when combined with real skills like programming, problem solving, and project building. Think of them as amplifiers. If you have good skills, GitHub helps you show them. If you practice regularly, Git helps you manage that practice better. But if you do nothing, these tools alone will not help. So the key is balance. Learn coding, build projects, and use Git and GitHub alongside them. Finally, if you're serious about building a career in tech, you should treat Git and GitHub as essential from the very beginning. Do not delay them. Do not think you will learn them later. Start now, even with small steps. Create a repository, make your first commit, push your first project. It may feel simple, but it is the beginning of a professional journey. Over time, these small actions build into something meaningful. In the end, Git helps you manage your work, GitHub helps you share your work, and together they help you grow, connect, and move forward in your career with clarity and confidence.